Well, welcome everybody to this meet and greet. I'm just going to tell you what this is to start. If you just walked in here and you have no idea, I don't know why you would have just walked into DeSales Gym on Thursday night, but if you did, we are here with candidates who are seeking election for Walla Walla Public Schools Board of Directors, and so we are going to be here tonight hearing them answer some questions, and then we'll have some other time to mingle at the end of this. I'm going to get into all the nitty-gritty details in just a little bit. But first off, and unfortunately, I am your host. My name is Jedediah Maines, and we'll be going through the details of what we're going to do. But as we start, since this is a Walla Walla Catholic Church's event, we would like to start off with some prayer. So if everyone would please stand up, I'm going to have Father O'Leary lead us in prayer. Thank you, Father O'Leary.
Thank you, Jedediah. Thank you, Jedediah. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty and eternal Father, you have revealed your glory to all nations. We thank you for all that you have given us, including this opportunity tonight to be able to meet and to hear from candidates seeking election to the Walla Walla Public School Board. Please guide these discussions and those who will help to form your beloved children. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ reminds us that these little ones, guardian angels, see your face day to day. And he warns us not to cause one of the least of them to stumble or fall. It is a privilege, therefore, to be here tonight, to participate in these discussions, and to hear from those who are seeking an office of service. And with privileges come responsibility. It is a tremendous privilege to be able to serve by forming the future generations of this community through education of children. Please send down your Holy Spirit to fill us with your wisdom, insight, counsel, and fortitude, that we may be guided by your virtues during these talks and subsequent election. We ask that these candidates be guided by your Holy Spirit in their service to the community, especially with helping to set up policies which will form our children in virtue and the joys of discovering truth. Jesus Christ, your Son, is the way, the truth, and the life. May these candidates work to foster a love for his truth, which leads to eternal life. Heavenly Father, good and all-powerful and almighty God, full of wisdom and justice, through your authority you rightly administer justice. Please help us to elect those who will follow your will and serve your people for the salvation of souls. We ask this through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Father O'Leary. Oh, nope, don't sit, stand. Sorry, I forgot to clarify that. All right, yeah, we are also going to we're going to take you back to school today. So we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance next, so please keep standing. And when the flag is all the way down, I will begin to lead us, and then hopefully I have a good cadence, and I'll take the mic away, and we'll all continue together. So please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance Thank you. All right, so hope everyone's having a nice Thursday evening. We're going to have a nice Thursday evening here tonight as well. And some of you might be wondering, what is going on here? Why are Walla Walla Catholic schools doing, or not Catholic schools, but Catholic churches doing this? Why are we into sales? What's going on here? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of what's going on, and then I'm also going to be giving you a little bit of just the details of how we're going to do this evening, okay? So I'm going to read actually a little bit of a letter that was sent out by one of the parishes here to all of the candidates. And so this was the letter that they all received, and they all had a chance to read, and they all responded to it, which is pretty awesome that all of these wonderful folks showed up here tonight. So first off, can we just give them a hand for responding to the invitation? Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to get into that letter, and but then after that letter went out, there was a ton of other people who got got together to get organizing, to get all this stuff together. So I want to thank everybody who did that. And I'm going to go through the list. Maybe don't actually give applause until you get to the very end of the list, just for time's sake. So we do definitely want to thank first and foremost Walla Walla Catholic Churches for organizing and getting this event going. DeSales Catholic School, of course, for allowing us to use their gym for this event. And the Assumption's Women's Group for providing water and cookies, aka my dinner tonight. And definitely, once again, a big thanks to all the candidates who showed up here tonight, and a big thanks to all of you. So give a round of applause if you would. Thank you, everybody, for that. And then, of course, if you would just give a big round of applause to me, that would be great. No, I'm just, yeah. Some of you did it. Oh, thank you. Wow, okay. Okay, so here's a copy of the beginning of the letter that they received from the parish. So it says, Dear Walla Walla Public Schools Board candidate, though our Assumption Parish community prioritizes opportunities for Catholic education in Walla Walla County, we recognize that many of our families are involved in our local public schools in various ways. As such, we have a vested interest in the quality and success of those schools and recognizing the vital importance of the Walla Walla Public Schools Board of Directors. With the upcoming election for new directors, members of our parish community have expressed interest in an opportunity to learn more about the potential candidates, their views on education, and their goals for a possible tenure as board members. To facilitate this, we will host a meet and greet. The other 2 Catholic parishes have agreed to advertise and extend invitations to this event, and as such, we decided to host this opportunity at a central location. The letter went on and on along the same lines, and so they all received that invitation, and here they are tonight, so I just think that's really awesome. So in light of that, let's go ahead and meet our candidates. They are lined up here in alphabetical order, which is very school appropriate, I think, right? So I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourself and say your name, and if you're so bold, say your age, maybe? Yeah, okay. Your name, your age, what you do, like occupation, or if you're a parent or whatever, and then if this is your first time seeking election or seeking re-election, and try to keep it down to that. Is that too many instructions? You got that? Is that good? Like I said, we're back at school. You got to follow instructions. Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name is Elena Brinton. I am 37 years old. I just changed. I have 2 children, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old in the Walla Walla Public Schools. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a small business owner here in Walla Walla. First time seeking election.
What position are you in?
Position number 4. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Zana Carver, and I am 45, proud of it, halfway to 90, and a grandma. I have 2 amazing sons. I have a wonderful daughter-in-law. I'm an associate professor of biology at Columbia Basin College. I am seeking election for the 2nd time. I was unsuccessful 2 years ago. Thank you. Oh, position 4. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Jameson. I'm 63, and I am seeking election for the first time. I work with adult education at Hanford Nuclear. Position 5.
I had no idea Kurt and I were twins. I'm Ruth Latterud, same age, Kurt. Yeah, who knew? I work part-time as an academic administrative assistant in the science building at Whitman College. Position 3.
My name is Chris Leindecker. I'm 59, first time running for public office. I'm currently working as court security with the sheriff's office. I have 30 years in criminal justice. I'm running for position 3.
I'm Derek Sarley. I'm 47. I had to think about it. I was glad I had time. I've been on the board for 2 terms. I'm in position number 5. We've got 2 daughters in the system, one in 7th grade and one in 10th grade. I think I got them all. Position 5. I'll say it again.
Thank you so much. All right, so I want to remind everyone before we get into some of this that we are recording this event tonight. That is for 2 purposes. One is just because that way you guys aren't being high schoolers and taking your phones out every once in a while. It's kind of rude to do that in the middle of somebody talking, right? I say that as I have my phone out right here. But please just, we are recording this, so you don't have to bring out your phones or anything like that. We have that, and I believe the plan is to put it up on YouTube or something like that. It's not being live streamed right now, but we do plan on putting the entirety of it, you understand what the hope is. I'm looking for somebody who says, yeah, right, okay. And then also just for safety, because I know you guys are gonna throw tomatoes at me at some point, so I just really need to make sure that everyone has video evidence of that. Boy, you guys are real tight wound tonight, I can tell. My goodness, we gotta get some jokes out there, all right. So we have a clock that's going to be going as each of the candidates talks. They will have exactly 3 minutes to answer the questions that we're going to go through. And then they'll have like a little warning on the clock. It'll be kind of nice. They'll get to count down and they get to see when their time is running out. This is not going to be a traditional debate format. They are not going to rebuttal each other. In fact, they received all of these questions beforehand. When they received that letter that we talked about, they actually got all the questions beforehand. So some of them are going to talk way better than I am tonight because they hopefully thought about this, and you're going to think, well, what the heck is that guy doing with the microphone? I don't know why. They just asked me to hold the mic, so here we go. But anyway, we're going to go through those questions, and then at the very end, we will have a time for some one-on-one questions. We're going to split the candidates up around the gym, and we have told them in that letter that they do not have to stay for that, and we are going to be respectful if people choose to not do that part where we'll have one-on-one questions. I will say that we will have moderators around the room, and if you are taking up somebody's time too much, we will kindly ask you to go to another candidate or to, whatever. So we are going to try to facilitate that as well. We want to be respectful. It's like I tell my son, we want to, sometimes I'm like, well, we got to act like adults sometimes. But then I realize I look at adults sometimes and I go, I don't know if he wants to act like that, So let's try to be respectful and cordial tonight. Remember, these people came on their own volition. They do not have to be here. So it's just awesome that we get to do this in the first place, right? So without further ado, we are going to go through these questions. And I'm hoping that this microphone lasts us the whole night because it is currently at hopefully 75%. I don't know, that looks like it. So we're going to go through these questions here, and I'm going to ask the question out loud. We can reiterate the question if you want, just to remind yourself which question we're on, but we're just going to go through 1 through 4 on the list that you guys had. So, and it looks like some of you have prepared statements. That's great. That's totally acceptable. Like I said, not a traditional debate format, just a simple questionnaire, live questionnaire, if you will. So we'll kind of just go down the line and back down the line like that with each question. So Derek, if you're not okay with doing 2 questions in a row, you can let us know. We can go back to the start of the line, but we'll just keep the mic going back and forth, and then I'll grab it and ask the next question. So the first question that we're going to go through, do you guys have any questions for me? Why won't he stop talking? Can we start already, right? Okay, yeah. So the first question is really simple. It's kind of basically what you already talked about. You will have 3 minutes to answer. And just like a regular forum, like if you're still talking, like we're not going to cut you off. And if you're done talking before the timer's up, we're not going to sit there awkwardly and make you finish the timer, So you'll have 3 minutes to answer each question. Here we go. So the first one is, please tell me about your background and what caused you to run for Walla Walla School Board. We'll start with you, Elena.
I have my notes to keep me on topic because I have a history of running out of time. So the main driving force behind my decision to run for Walla Walla Public School Board is my 2 elementary school children who are enrolled in the Walla Walla School District. I want the best possible education experience for them and for all of the children who will follow in their footsteps. I firmly believe the mission and vision of Walla Walla Public Schools and its capacity to provide an exceptional education to our students. My background is rooted in a strong commitment to education, community involvement, and a passion for ensuring the best opportunities for our children. I hold an undergraduate degree from WSU, go Cougs, and a Master of Social Work from Walla Walla University. I'm currently pursuing my MBA through Eastern Washington University. This educational journey has equipped me with the skills to understand complex systems and make informed decisions. As a clinical social worker and a small business owner, I have been deeply involved in our community. I've had the privilege of working directly with students and families for nearly 2 decades. It gives me firsthand insight into the challenges they face. It's crystal clear to me that our school system plays a vital role in the well-being and success of our children, and that we must partner together as parents, educators, and community members to create the best possible environments for our children. I'm running for the Walla Walla Public School Board to actively contribute to the betterment of our district. I believe that with my background in social work and in business, I can offer a unique perspective and the ability to make informed decisions that will positively impact the lives of our students and our community as a whole. My goal is to work collaboratively with fellow board members, with parents, with teachers, and other stakeholders to create an environment where every child can thrive academically.
Hello, I'm Dr. Zana Carver, and I'm just a small town girl from Montana. I grew up in a town of about 500 people. There were 15 students in my graduating class. None of us slipped through the cracks. If one of us were struggling, everybody knew about it. I had the most amazing teachers. Fast forward, I grew up in a single-parent household. I grew up without a mother. I worked really hard to finish my education. I have a PhD, and I have a master's degree. And I've done a lot to promote women in science. There has been fewer girls that go into certain scientific fields, and many of my students actually end up going into healthcare. A lot of them become nurses. But on the college side of that, I see how a primary education can set students up for success in college. And I see that it does so much more than teach them the basic subjects. It helps them to form their foundation. It gives them a moral structure if they're not already getting it from their household. But I can tell you that during COVID, listening to some of the lectures that my sons and some of the things that they were taught, I was very shocked. And I'm not here running because I choose to do that or because I need something else on my plate. I'm here because I was asked to. I'm here because I care about the children. I'm here because I care about some of the new things that are being taught in schools that's coming down from the state that's not in our children's best interest. I'm here because there is a mental health crisis with our children and young adults, and even if your children go to private school, they're still affected by it. It is spreading throughout our country, and there are some very concerning things that are happening. So for all the good things going on in our schools right now, I just don't want it to take the wrong turn. And I'm here to protect the children because I love our children. I love my children and grandchildren, my whole family. And I do not want to see their minds corrupted by mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you. Background and why. So background, I grew up in Spokane, actually north of Spokane in a little town called Meade. And blue-collar family, and learned how to work with my hands. And after high school, I worked construction for a little while, and then I decided, it was time to go back to school. And ended up a little bit older when I graduated college, but found that the college courses were a little bit easier once you were older. And ended up getting a master's in mathematics and chemistry, a double master's in those courses. And my goal was to teach. I loved working with kids. And so I jumped into education and spent 28 years in education, 13 years in the classroom teaching math and science and technologies and a number of courses, but 13 years in the classroom and then a master's in admin. And I decided to step into the realm of leadership in the schools because I thought, I loved what I did in the classroom, but if I could help guide the schools down that same path, that was the direction I wanted to go. So moved to Walla Walla, took a vice principal job at Walla Walla High School. And between Walla Walla High School and the district office, I was the IT director and also the vocational director. So 15 years total in this area. But after 10 years in Walla Walla, I had the opportunity to get hired and plan and build College Place High School. So that was from the ground up, designing the curriculum, watching it grow from nothing, and never having a high school before, to watching that school take off, and in its first graduating class had 100% graduation rate. I look back on 28 years and I say, I've watched education be dumbed down. I watched math courses year after year. We couldn't start at the same place because of the retention factors. Those types of things that I just see being compounded throughout the system. We put in place things like No Child Left Behind. Sounds good. Sounds very positive. We don't want to leave any kid behind. But that doesn't mean we should dumb down the rest of them to meet the lowest level. And that's what's happening in our schools. When you see a student that can do 30% and graduate, look at the facts. That's what's happening in our schools. We have less than 50% in Walla Walla Public Schools. I look at all of these factors, and having worked there for 15 years in this area, I've watched it happen. So that's why I'm running.
Again, I'm Ruth Latterud, and nearly 60 years ago, my parents and family moved to Walla Walla. My dad moved to be a Lutheran minister, and you Catholics, I did not bring my hammer and notes to put on the door. Yeah, some of you are getting that. Yeah, some of you are rolling that way. Okay. My mom is a home ec teacher, and I have 3 older siblings. I had the opportunity to attend public schools here in Walla Walla. I attended Payne. Some of you know that now as Lincoln. I attended Prospect Point when it opened, Garrison, Wahai. I have degrees from Whitman and WSU. I had the opportunity to return to Walla Walla in 1988 with my husband, John. He's a veterinarian, and again, we're at DeSales, so might be a connection. He practiced with Susan Fazzari. We had the opportunity and have raised our 3 kids here. 2 are married. I've got a couple of grandkids. A lot of my life has been volunteering. I've been on the Walla Walla School Board. I missed that part on earlier for 10 years. Elected twice, appointed, started as an appointment and re-elected. And throughout my volunteering time, probably one of the first and most exciting volunteer awards, I received a Golden Acorn PTA award. I had no idea that it even existed, and my son said, "Mom, you have to come to this assembly." And you know, it really is a delight to receive an award when you had no idea it even existed or that you were in line for it. It was a total delight surprise. I've been a recipient of the Whitman College Reed Service to Walla Walla Award. I'm very active in the Walla Walla AAUW. We put on a STEAM event, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math for kids every other year at Whitman College. My why to be on the school board? I have to admit, I voted no on a bond. It was the multi-story building on either side of the campus at Wahai of the Creek. I just couldn't support it. I went and learned more, and at that point I said, I can't be part of a problem. Really good people put a lot of work into coming up with this plan. I have to be a constructive, I have to learn more. And so at that point, I got involved. So having gotten involved because of a construction issue, I've realized that school boarding, which is a verb, is so much more than just the building. It's about kids, each and every one succeeding amazingly. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Chris Leindecker. I was born and raised in Pendleton. My father was the assistant roadmaster. After high school, I went into the military. When I was discharged, I started college, got my first job in the juvenile justice system in 1987, worked in a group home and detention facilities, did some ride-alongs, some reserve work for a patrol agency in Ashland, Oregon, which is where I completed my BA in criminology. I was hired by the state of Washington in 1993 as an adult probation parole officer. I worked that job for 28 and a half years. I'm currently working for the sheriff's office as a court security officer. I got into, I'm running for the school board because in my 30 plus years in the criminal justice system, I dealt with I don't know how many people who could not read, write, do basic math. I mean, I filled out so many job applications for people, I can't even count them all. I taught offender change groups for many years, and hardcore felons, they're a tough crowd. I'm sure that junior high kids are a tough crowd. So the reason I'm running, like I said, I've dealt with many, many people who cannot read, write, or do basic math. There's a high school in Texas. They were supposed to graduate 33 people this year. 28 of them were found to be ineligible. How does that happen? We have a 91% graduation rate, but we're the bottom 50% of the state. The state is the bottom 50% of the nation. I've worked many, many years with sex offenders. I've dealt with a lot of sex offenders, a lot of victims. We have a serious problem in our younger people in manipulations with several national and international organizations. I hope to educate not only the students, but the parents to avoid that problem.
So I've been on the board the last 8 years, done a lot in that time, and there's a lot that's hanging on the walls in that boardroom that I worked on. There are buildings that are out there that I worked on. I think there's a fair amount that we've accomplished over the last 8 years. There's still more to do. But so I wanted to, in keeping with the rest of the group, I think, talk a little bit more about like where I come from. So I'm not from Walla Walla. We've been here about 10 years. I grew up on the East Coast and mostly in Pennsylvania. My parents, who just so happened to be in town this week, my dad's a United Methodist pastor. My mom was a teacher and a guidance counselor. That was shaping in a bunch of different ways. But if you go back one more generation, my dad's dad was a steel worker working in the plant at Bethlehem Steel. His mom did food service at a home for troubled youth, as they used to call it back then. My mom's parents were both farmers. There was never a question in my household of if I would go to school, if I would work hard, if I would get good grades, and if I would go to college. Because in those families, the American dream happened because of education. It was within a generation or two, it was work hard, go to college, get a great job, achieve the American dream. And we saw that transform the Sarli and the Muti families. Now it's harder these days, absolutely. I think back to 20 years ago when we bought our first house. Buying a house now as a young person seems impossible to me. It's not as easy to pay for college. It's not quite the same as it was when I was growing up, but it is still what we should be striving for, and it's the thing that motivates me. It's why I do work in education, because it is the single best way to take a kid who's coming from any circumstance and give them the opportunity to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. The other thing is that when we lived in Pennsylvania, the first half of my life, we were in a very rural community. When I was 12, we moved to a suburb of Philadelphia. We were not a high-income family, minister, teacher, but we moved to a district. My dad was assigned to a church that was. Most of my friends' dads worked at pharmaceutical companies and defense contractors. And they lived in that community because that community had great schools, and they would do anything they possibly could to make those schools even better. And so when I went to middle school and high school, I went to one of the finest middle and high schools in the entire country. The opportunities that were available to me and to every kid were part of what shaped me, part of what set me on a path for success, but it also set the personal bar for me. I didn't grow up here and say, well, you know, it kind of looks like it did when I went to school here. I look at it and I say, I want every kid in Walla Walla to have the same opportunities that I had over in Interdifferent Easttown. That's what I work on all the time. And I want to say one more thing too. We're going to talk about test scores and some other things tonight. I think when you're a parent and you have kids in the schools and you actually interact with their teachers and you see what they're teaching and you see how they're challenging them and you see the assignments they're giving them and how hard they're working and how much homework they have to do, I think you actually see just how great those teachers are.
Thank you. Okay, I forgot to mention this. Y'all did a great job. Anyway, I give you an A-. Please hold your applause till after they're done talking. If they make a great point or whatever, just, you know, save it till the very end of what they're talking. So thank you for doing that and continue to do that. So we're gonna go down the line that way. Are you guys okay with that? Everyone fine with that? Okay, so the next question is going to be, what things do you feel Walla Walla Public Schools are doing well now, and what is the main issue you would like to see changed? So what's going on that's good? What's going on that you'd like to see changed? I'll start with you, Derek.
I have 2 seconds. Thank you. So there's a whole lot going well in Walla Walla Public Schools, and I think there's often a sense that relentless criticism that suggests there isn't. But if you're involved in there every day, you see all the amazing things. So I want to tell a couple stories. One of them is about 2 years ago, our board decided we want to recognize any kid who's doing a Walla Walla program and finishes top 3 in the state. We thought we should bring them to a board meeting, we should recognize them. We want to applaud greatness, not just competence, greatness. And I will tell you at that time, we had absolutely no idea how many kids in Walla Walla Public Schools were finishing in the top 3 in the state in something. And so I went back and I counted last year just to look at how much time we'd spent in meetings. It was cross country, softball, dance, cheer, boys wrestling, girls wrestling, Future Farmers of America, Skills USA, Future Business Leaders of America, JROTC, TSA, I don't actually remember what that one is, Envirothon, 3 different kinds of marksmanship, and 2 music students who didn't come. There is greatness happening in our schools, and it is one of the strengths of our system is that we are providing all of those opportunities to all of those kids. It is not a one-size-fits-all education. It's not just the basics. It is whatever those kids want to achieve after they graduate from high school, we're going to give them the chance to get there. I'll give you another good example. Last week, Boeing announced that they've had 1,000 kids complete their Core Plus program. So Core Plus is a free curriculum for CTE programs. We have it over at CTEC. If you go through it, you graduate, you do the coursework, you can get an interview with Boeing, take a job over in Boeing building airplanes like the day after you leave high school. That is a well-paying job. And I asked our CTE director, okay, so 1,000 kids across the entire state have done that. How many of them have been Walla Walla? And unfortunately, he didn't have a full number, but he told me it was somewhere between 20 and 30. And that is just another example of the opportunities we are giving kids every day. This isn't about just like a basic skill. This is setting a kid on success for life. That kid doesn't have to go to college because they're making airplanes, and within a couple of years, they're making more money than a lot of us are. So I do want to talk about test scores. One of the things people don't mention about test scores, they like to leave out the fact that, like, oh, at high school, our science score is 20 points higher than the rest of the state. No one ever mentioned some of the good things that we're doing. There are some things that we aren't doing well. But I want to talk again a little bit about kids, and we got to separate them, unfortunately. And I brought lots of data, and I can talk as long as you want afterwards. So if we look at kids who are non-low income in our district, right, the kids who are able to access the education we're providing them, we are outperforming the state on all of those tests, okay? So this is the problem. But how are we doing with the kids who are not high income? The kids who are poor, we're not outperforming the rest of the state. And the problem is, on an ongoing basis every year, we have more and more poor kids in our district. It is part of what's making the challenge for our teachers. It's part of what's causing things that make it harder to just teach because you have so many other needs that you have to address. But it's absolutely not true to say that Walla Walla is not providing high quality education. It is for the kids who are able to access it, the kids who come ready to learn every day. It is there. It is better than what the rest of the state is doing. The problem is we have way too many kids who are not ready to learn, and we have not yet cracked the code on how we fix it. So to the last part of the question, that's what we need to work on.
Okay, so I am not a teacher in here. I've never been a teacher in the public school system, but I know a lot of teachers. There is a very high truancy rate here. Probably these kids that are not being taught. So yes, there are kids that are doing great here. I know people that they're doing exceedingly well, but we have a lot of them that are falling through the cracks. Those are the people that I deal with and have dealt with for 30 plus years. So we need to do a better job. If the teachers are too busy, then we need to figure out something else, because we can't just keep piling on and on and on, because it's a failure waiting to happen. It's already a failure. There is good programs here. I've known a lot of teachers. They have great in the FAA program, in the ROTC program. Their athletes are, I guess, questionable. The football team's not doing too well, I guess. But that can be improved. I mean, and that's a minor part. The education is the primary goal of our school systems. Can they read, write? Can they function in society on their own without financial support from the taxpayer or living their life with mom and dad? So we need to focus primarily on education and increase the trades at a younger age. I've talked to a lot of kids, you know, they wish they had trades at 14, 13, 14. That would be a great start for them, give them an idea where they want to go.
So I'll start with doing well, and the first comment I put on there was TNTC, and you will recognize that, Zaina, as too numerous to count. I think one of my personal favorites about what Walla Walla Public Schools is doing right is the participation fees are gone. The kids don't pay for an ASB fee. They don't have to pay to be on that football team. I wish they would win more, but they don't have to pay. If you want to go watch, you don't have to pay. If you want to go watch the play, you don't have to pay. If you're a student in an AP course and you need to take that AP test, we can do that at no charge. If your student needs driver's ed, you don't have to pay. We have a driver's ed. So that is amazing. That is removing barriers. A personal favorite, you mentioned FFA. The school farm at Wahai is something we're doing very well. Lots of participation there. Walla Walla Public Schools put a bond on the ballot. Promises made, promises kept. That was a huge lift. We did that project during COVID with supply chain issues and inflation, and did it all on time. We have made academic progress. Derek is our number man, and I will leave it to him, but we have graduation rates that are going up. We pivoted with COVID faster and rebounded faster and closed those gaps. We have an amazing strategic plan, and we support the plan with funding and focus. One of my favorites there is a renewed focus on reading, especially so that those kids are reading fluently at the end of second grade, because when they hit third grade, instead of learning to read, they need to be reading to learn. That's huge, and we are diving into what the science says and how we can help every kid accomplish reading, which is even foundational for the math that we want them to do. Walla Walla has a Center for Children and Families that is a lighthouse for Walla Walla for the state. We have legislatures coming from the other side of the state to say, how does Walla Walla make state, federal, and local programs work for our littlest learners, those pre-kindergarten kiddos? We have options to meet kids where they're at. We have the new Carnegie Learning Center. We have Opportunity, HomeLink, New and Again. We have the CTEC. We have Lincoln. The district has also been incredibly fiscally responsible. We are not facing the financial cliff that so many are. 16 seconds to tell you what I want to see changed. We have a pillar in our new strategic plan about partnerships with community and families, and this engagement and outreach is very exciting. And one of the things I have to throw in, I have 1 second left, but I have so much respect for the Catholic schools because they understand how important it is for their families and the community to support their education. I want to see that mirrored. Thank you.
When I was in high school, I probably like many of you, you had in the fall it was football or one other sport. You know, winter it was basketball, and the spring it was track or baseball. That's what it was, and you just made do. So when I talk about the things that are happening well, it's all of the different opportunities that the schools are providing. There is no reason why a student who wants to be active can't be, because there's something for everyone. We've made sure that happens. So there are opportunities across the board for every student that wants to be involved. And I love that about the schools. I had 4 kids that went through the schools. My first son was the first ever 12 sport. That's 3 sports a year for 4 years. Valedictorian, and he graduated from the Air Force Academy because of that. He was there because of accountability to all of the classes and the work that he was doing, but the accountability was at home. He had 2 parents that pushed him and drove him, and he drove himself, and it was a winning situation for him. But I can tell you from personal experience that not all students have that same support system. And so if there's no accountability at home, where's the accountability lie? We owe that to the students. We see students that are being passed through from grade level to grade level without mastering that previous grade level. And I can speak from personal experience, 64% of the ninth graders that went into College Place High School, now it's same valley, okay, maybe not Walla Walla, but same valley, 64% couldn't pass any of the 3 tests that they were held accountable to, which means they were not grade level ready. So they walk into high school and the clock is ticking. You have 4 years to graduate, and they're not grade level ready. They're expected to read a science book that is written at or above grade level, and I had students that couldn't read 5th grade books. Why is that? Because we failed them along the way. We're more worried about their social emotional than what they actually learned. And sometimes they're just not ready to learn at 1st grade. We experienced that with our 4th child. He wasn't reading when he went to school. But he looked around and went, oh, it's time to read. And you know what? He caught up because we were there to help that. But I watched students go from grade to grade to grade without being ready for that next grade. And I think that's something we really have to work on, is we're graduating students who are functionally illiterate and not ready for the world around them.
I believe that Walla Walla Public Schools is doing a great job of caring for the children and young adults. I believe that the teachers and the staff, for the most part, really care about their future, care about their education, most of them are willing to go out of their way to help students who are slipping through the cracks or falling behind or struggling in some way. I think that part is very good. Now, when I was a young girl, I used to think that women got pregnant from accidentally eating watermelon seeds. And I thought that because my older cousin told me that. Why did I believe that? Because she was older than me. Someone in authority tells a child something, they're going to believe it. I'm here because our children are at a very vulnerable age. And if the state has policies regarding their sex and gender education, they're going to believe it. And I believe that it's a parent's job to educate their children on those matters. But let me give you another example. I grew up hunting, fishing, playing in the dirt, camping, you name it. I was a tomboy. Nowadays, girls are told if you are a tomboy, maybe you should really be a boy. Or if a boy is feminine and he enjoys things that girls enjoy, he is told maybe you should be a girl. Children are being taught that there are many different genders. There are 2. My background is biology, and I'm willing to say that on a chromosome level, there are 2. You can change your personality, you can change the way you dress, you can change everything about yourself, but it doesn't change your heart, and God doesn't make mistakes. So why are we confusing children at a time when their emotional health is already low? Why does the state feel it's their job to educate children on these matters instead of the parents? Why can't parents decide how their children should be educated concerning sex and gender? Why is it okay for schools to tell children it's not safe to tell your parents you want to be a different pronoun or a different name? Why is that being kept from the parents? If a child is not feeling comfortable for some reason, maybe they need counseling. Maybe their parents can have a discussion with them. Maybe they can talk about why they feel uncomfortable, because it's okay to be who you are. I can stand up here and wear men's clothes. That's okay if that's how I feel that day. But it doesn't mean that you need to change who you are, and it doesn't mean that you need to change to please anybody else. And at 45 years of age, I'm not here to make friends or make anybody please them. I'm here because I am who I am, and we need to teach our children you are who you are too. Let's all just be comfortable with who we are. Let parents educate their children regarding sex and gender. And if they're confused, maybe counseling would be appropriate rather than trying to tell them that they're a different gender that they were not born at.
So, as a parent with kids in the district, I'm able to see firsthand how much the educators in our district office communicate with families. Educators and the district office communicates with our families. I receive daily communication that is rich with important information. Not only is information disseminated to me, but my thoughts and opinions are sought out as well and taken into consideration when decision making happens, things like that, to partner with the teachers in the district on helping my students learn. I deeply appreciate that the district's efforts to keep me informed as a parent, and I believe that they have a true interest in continuing to maintain and improve connections and collaborations with the families that they serve. I attended the Walla Walla Public Schools Foundation breakfast this morning, where I got to talk to some of the Walla High students. Our conversations, it was made very apparent to me that there is a very tangible effort being made by our district to ensure that every single student feels a sense of support and belonging. This is the strength of our district. I'm proud to have my family in a district where part of the mission is to create a culture of equity and belonging. All academics really have to start there, with the knowledge that as a student, I belong here regardless of my background or circumstances. Earlier today, I actually posted something online that talked about the fact that, this comes from my psychology background, that comes from the fact that our brain and our body have to be safe to be able to learn. It's just science. And I think that our district really has made an effort and continues to make an effort to make our schools safe. Our district provides, you're going to hear some redundancy here, but our district provides ASB cards, entrance to game and events, field trips, driver's ed, and so many other things to our students and their families free of charge, all as a way to ensure that students are given the opportunities to connect, to grow, and to thrive in our district. Our district has a lot of strength. I can say definitively that my children are receiving an excellent educational experience at their elementary school here. We are truly blessed to have this experience. However, there are children in our district who may be experiencing significant barriers to succeeding in academics, and we as a district and community have a long way to go to continue to wrap around those students and families. The interesting thing here, again, my psychology background doesn't turn off, almost every single person here spoke about the most vulnerable, and I think that that's really important, that as a community we come together to ensure that the most vulnerable are cared for and are safe at school and are able to be taught to their level and brought up to the highest level that they could possibly be. We know that poverty rates in our community are higher than the state average. We also know that mental health conditions are at an all-time high with no change in the upward trend occurring. Over half of our high school seniors show clinically significant signs of depression, and 1 in 4 have considered taking their life in the last 12 months. If you look at this, that would be at least one of us considering taking our lives. That's how bad our crisis is. Those statistics are even higher for marginalized populations. We cannot expect high levels of academic achievement in students who are in deep despair, who don't have enough food to eat, and who do not have safe places to go to after school. I wish I was able to say that these barriers to education weren't prevalent, but they affect the majority of our students, which is why this is top of mind for me. If we want to produce Washington's most sought-after graduates, we need to ensure that our district policies and procedures support a trauma-informed approach to behavior management and student health.
I know. I have to be the bad guy. I have to be the bad guy and get up here and cut you off. I'm sorry, but I also need to check the microphone. Oh, we're still at 75%. This is great. All right, cool. Woohoo, that's great. All right, so the next question, which I left behind at the bench, and I'm just gonna walk over here and pretend like I didn't leave it behind at the bench, is do you believe that you can make a difference for our local youth, and then why or why not? So it's kind of a little bit along the same lines, and just I encourage you guys to think about that as it goes down the line, and then of course we will come back down the other way as well. So you're good with starting the next one? All right, so do you believe you can make a difference for our local youth? Why or why not? Thank you.
I would really hope I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I could make a difference. I wholeheartedly believe that I can make a significant difference for our local youth. I have an unwavering dedication and a deep compassion for all humans, especially our youngest. They are our future, and they are what is going to carry our world through. I think that throughout my life and career, I've witnessed the transformative power of education and of having strong support systems and of having a good start. I recognize that there is a need for that to happen in our community, and I think our district has a mission that's carrying it that way. I want to use my experience and my education and even just my experience of being a mom to help inform our district and come from a community level to improve our district and continue to play off of its strengths. I firmly believe that by actively engaging with our youth and their families and their educators and having healthy relationships with all parties combined here, that we can collaboratively address their needs and provide opportunities for growth and ensure that nurturing environments with accountability to high levels of success are there to empower every student to thrive. I'm convinced that the right guidance, resources, and supports our local youth can overcome challenges, reach their full potential, and become valuable contributors to our community and our society.
Yes, I do believe I can make a difference in restoring our schools back to what education should be, focusing on core subjects rather than politics, rather than the new thing. I believe in our kids. I believe our kids are resilient and adaptable, but I believe that their education really starts in the home. And if we want to do a good job educating kids, then parents need to be respected and listened to. If there are issues in the school that are not being addressed, they need to be addressed. And above all, our children need to be kept safe. There needs to be proper boundaries at school, and there needs to be the proper protection. But most of all, we need to make sure that our staff, our teachers, our board members, our principals and superintendents are really listening to the parents, because no one is going to love and protect the children as well as their parents. It is not the state's job to raise our children, and I want to see education restored to what it was and what it should be.
Can I make a difference? The answer here is obviously yes. I believe that the role of the school board is to protect the most vulnerable, and I don't think that's happening. I think that we are in the middle of a culture war, and that's what we're seeing happen in our schools, in our country. And I would also like to restore our district to the greatness that it was, to the values, to the moral values that we watched as we grew up that have been really gutted from our school system. Our job is to protect the most vulnerable, which means we're not there to be politicizing our education. We're there for the core fundamentals that will get them through to graduation with the ability to take on a job or whatever career path they want, not to mold them into what we think they should be. And I think that's a critical piece that we have forgotten in our school systems. So can I make a difference? Yeah, I can. Because I've got the background, I've watched this occur for 28 years. I know where all of those pieces fit in the school district. Probably more than most parents, more than some administrators, some teachers, because I've been there and I built the schools. And I think we can do a better job at protecting our kids.
You know, if I didn't passionately care about kids and think that I could make a difference, I wouldn't have invested 10 years in this project of school boarding. I wouldn't have attended those thousands of hours of professional development, those meetings, those conferences, those book studies that talk about and study how can a school board have a positive impact on student outcomes. And there is research that shows that a board that is united with a superintendent focused on what has the highest impact on student outcomes does translate into positive results. For example, the most important thing for our kiddos in their classroom and their success is the quality of the educator in front of that classroom and working with those kids. So helping the district constructively focus on what it takes for each and every student to have that quality educator, and that the educator has what they need, the resources, the curriculum, the professional development, the team support, that's huge. And it also means, as a school director, to monitor what those outcomes that we are determining, it's important, how they are happening. So, for example, that second grade reading issue I was talking about, it's also a school director and a school board's collective job to budget for those things. And it also means keeping focused on the strategic plan and not adding new programs, other things to an already full plate.
I've spent my entire life dealing with people that are down and out. I've had many of them come later on and thank me. Even though they called me bad names, they thanked me because I saved their life. I did that through discipline, and I told the truth. Can I help kids? Yes. Children need to be children. If there are teenagers, 15 and up, they know what's going on. They need to know what to be held accountable. Right now, there is programs going through the system called choke games. They're choking each other out for fun and for sexual gratifications. Kids are dying. They need to be educated on that. There are programs, there are agencies, there are organizations nationwide and throughout the world that are promoting those programs. They need to be controlled in the school system. Parents need to be educated as to what is going on out there in the real world.
So there's a funny thing that happens at school board meetings these days, and it didn't happen in my first term, but we start the meeting, we do the Pledge of Allegiance, adopt the agenda, we recognize a student, and then there's 20 or 30 minutes of people bringing politics into the school system. And then they're done, and then the school board moves on to the work of actually doing what the school system needs. And I think it's an interesting point that, like, we never talked about sex in the boardroom until that started happening, right? Like these issues that are supposedly dominating the conversation never happened. They never came up. We just went on and did the work of trying to improve academic achievement, trying to make sure the budget balanced, trying to make sure that we had curriculum that was actually up to date so that teachers didn't have to spend their time at night trying to find other materials so that they could teach the next day. Like that's the actual work of the school board. Our teachers are way too busy most of the time just trying to stay on top of what they're doing in their classroom to do anything else. That's what's actually happening in schools. This idea that we can just hold kids accountable into success, like, yeah, that worked in the 50s, 60s, 70s because we just flunked out 75 or 25% of kids, right? Like, we didn't actually care. We just said dropouts were a fact of life. It happened. We don't do that anymore. We're trying to get every single kid across the finish line. And let me tell you, those kids in Lincoln, they're not going to just go for, hey, I'm holding you accountable. If you don't show up, you better not show up tomorrow. They're not going to show up tomorrow. The amount of work that our teachers do on a daily basis to keep those kids engaged, to say we're not going to let you fall through the cracks, it is much more than just, it is not the old world where you can say, I'm going to call your dad and you know what will happen if that happens. I also say, too, at this point, 8 years into this job, I have a certain amount of humility about like what the board can actually achieve and how quickly it can achieve it. This is hard work. When you're talking about moving an entire school system, I read some of the stats. We've made great strides on those same academic tests we were talking about earlier since I've been on the board. But it is hard. It doesn't happen as fast as you want. It is not simply just beat everybody over the head and say get better. And I can give you a great example. Our kids aren't doing a good enough job reading. The kids who are at home, who are in language-rich environments, whose parents are constantly talking to them, there are books everywhere. They're reading as long as they don't have dyslexia. If they're just able to read, they read. The other kids who are not in that environment, who are showing up behind, they need more than that. So one approach is to just say, hey, do better. That doesn't work. The approach we're actually taking now is we're trying to figure out, okay, what's wrong? And so we've rolled out a pilot in one school, and man, I hope we can roll it out quicker. It's K2 focused on science of reading work so that we can actually build phonics, build those skills that our kids need so that by the time they get to third grade and they're taking those tests, they're actually going to pass them. That's the kind of stuff that it's like actually technical expertise. It requires investment. It requires the teachers leading it and saying, this works for us, this doesn't. That's what actually like drives the system forward. It's not just do better.
All right, thank you very much, and you guys are doing a great job sticking to the time. Thank you very much, and all of you are doing a great job. Thank you for your patience and for all of your patience as well as you wait for it to get to the end. We have one more question here, and then we'll get to the next part of the evening. Cookies. So the last question here is, please give a closing statement that summarizes your strengths. So basically, what makes you a strong candidate? It's kind of rewording what was just had, but what makes you a strong candidate for your position?
And I'll play by the rules, since we always make our commenters play by the rules, and I appreciate how well they do. School board work requires, honestly, a team-focused and consensus-building mindset, and here's why, right? Like, we're the place in school, in the community that every kid goes to. We're sitting here in a Catholic school. If parents want to have a Catholic education for their kids, that is their right, and that is cool, and they can do that, and they can seek that out. Walla Walla Public Schools, College Place Public Schools, these are the places that have to accept everybody, no matter what they think, no matter what they believe, no matter who they are. That's our job. And so when we do that, we can't be capital P political. Like, we're in this extremely divisive, mentioned earlier, culture war moment in time, where you've got two 50-50 blocks who are just fighting over who can get to 51-49 so that they can win. We can't do that. We can't get to a place where, like, we get half the community what they want. The other half of the community is not fine. It's their kids who matter. So what we have to do is try to work towards consensus. And so I'm going to talk about the books. So when people say to us, you need to ban these books, we don't like what's in these books, I talk to parents all the time, and I will tell you that there is no book over the age of, like, you know, See Dick and Jane Run, right, that two parents have the same opinion on. You talk to one parent, and they're like, hey, you know what, my kid's 8, that's fine for them to read. Another, it's 12, another, it's 16. It is a continuum. And so wherever you draw the line, if you say, nope, not available, or yep, available, you're going to create a situation where you're leaving some parents out. And so what we have done is create a system where we trust our librarians, we trust our teachers, and we should, because they do want what's best for kids, to make those kind of decisions. But we have an absolute, ironclad, guaranteed opt-out right for parents. And I can read it. Parents or guardians who wish to monitor their students' access to library materials may do so by contacting their student librarian, who can provide remote access to the online library interface. Any parent guardian may request to remove library checkout privileges for their student by contacting the librarian. What we've done there is say, we're trying to create a system that works for everybody. We're keeping books available for anybody, because one of the things we say we want to do with kids is create critical thinking skills. We need real world school skills, right? We got to create critical thinking. You cannot instill critical thinking in people if they're never allowed to read anything they might disagree with. You have to make those kind of materials available for kids. At the same time, you absolutely have to respect parents' rights. You have to say, in a community of diverse perspectives, where we welcome all students, not just the ones who choose to pay to come there, and all families, not just the ones who choose to pay to come there, like, we're going to respect your choices for your kid, and we're going to respect your choices for your kid. The problem is when people get on a board and they say, it's my way or the highway, then you lose community support. And that's a really bad idea in a place where you still need 60% of people to fund your schools.
Well, I think the books do matter. Child pornography is illegal in this country. If it's a painting or if it's drawing, it's art. The Supreme Court said in 1964, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. The organizations, NAMBLA, Sex Before 8 or They're Too Late, PI, Pedophiles Information Exchange, SBDSM, they are all in the targeting your children. They're doing it through the books. They're doing it. Now, I'm not want to ban books. Nobody wants to ban books, burn books, but they're age appropriate. They can go to the library, or they can have a parental sign off if they want to check that out. But they're attacking our vulnerable children. The choke games are targeting children. It's on TikTok. You get on the web, there's 2.5 million sites for sex and strangulation. They're targeting our children. Yes, if they want to do sex education, tell their kids how to be a rational thought process, but it has to be age appropriate, and it's not, I don't believe it's right for the school system.
Before we start, can you re-prompt? So the prompt is, please give you all what makes me a strong candidate, so I'm going to kind of pivot back to that prompt. As you have heard, one of the things that I bring to this is a deep root in the community. You could say that I'm kind of one of the more longer in this community, but I know this community has a very long history, so my 60 years oftentimes doesn't get me much cred with some of the groups. I'm also thoughtful, I'm reflective, I love to learn, and I care passionately that each and every kiddo deserves to have the opportunity to love and succeed in school and beyond. If I had the gift of teaching, as my retired home ec teacher mother does, and as my elementary teacher daughter does, and I know how much that impacts students, I would teach. But I know my gifts and skill set, they aren't as a classroom teacher, so I contribute where and how I can. I've also had 10 years to do this school board learning curve. I have a realistic knowledge of the time and effort it takes to volunteer as an elected public school board member. Volunteer is the key word, right? If we want to raise, we go from 0 to 0. And part of being that experienced board allowed Walla Walla Public Schools Board to receive the State Board of the Year for mid-sized schools in 2019. We are set apart in the state as being a Board of the Year, as being exemplary. Finally, if you roll this way, you'll appreciate my unofficial campaign slogan at maybe a deeper level. Now is not the time for the Walla Walla Public School District to be ruthless.
So it says, give a closing statement that summarizes my strengths. You've heard my background, my years in education. Let me just cut to the chase. What we're dealing with here is all of us are going to sit here and say, we believe that we're going to do what's best for kids. We've all said that. What we haven't defined is what's best. And we all have a different definition of that. And that's really what we're coming down to. Because this is really a moral, cultural war that we're facing. I've used that term before. We're watching things in schools that we would never believe could be there. Confusion. So when you ask, what are my strengths? I'm going to sit here and say I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, and I believe that there are moral values that are immovable. When I was a kid, when you walked into the store, stealing was wrong. Now, but there may be different punishments for that based on the situation, but it was wrong, and I knew that. But now I can go to a grocery store or a store in Seattle or Portland and steal $900, and it's not wrong anymore because those values are no longer immovable. See, I believe that there are immovable moral standards that say certain things in life are wrong, and they'll always be wrong. So it doesn't matter whether I get voted in or not. That's what I believe, so that's what you're voting for. Because I'm going to stand here and say that there are certain things that are wrong, and we're not going to teach those to the kids in school. If they want to learn those at home, that's fine. I am not about going to somebody's house and saying, you can't do that. You can do whatever you want, but not in our schools, because there are immovable moral standards, and that's what I'll stand on.
I agree with Kirk that this is a moral issue in our schools, and I want to remind you all that there are 3 open positions on a 5-person board. If you want our schools to continue in the direction that they're going and things to gradually get worse or go in the same direction, then you know who to vote for. If you want our schools to be restored and have a moral foundation, we have 3 candidates up here that are for that. Now, I want to address Derek Sarley's comment about how there was no talk of sexual education in the schools before it was brought up at board meetings. Sweeping a problem underneath the rug does not make it go away. This is an issue. And let me be clear, no one here is for book burning. No one here is for getting rid of books that have educational value. We are talking about straight pornography. I teach human anatomy and physiology at a college level, and my face turns red when I see the pictures that are in this book. That's how embarrassing it is. The sex education for different ages is absolutely inappropriate. The WHO has a video teaching young children about masturbation. They are flat out sexualizing our children, and if we don't stand up now, this is gonna get even worse. We're gonna have drag queen story time. We're gonna have pride parades every day in our schools, and it needs to stop. So we're here because we have the guts to stand up for what's right. I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for Kirk, and I'm speaking for Chris. We do not want our school system to continue in the direction that it's gone. We want things to get turned around. We want things restored so that education focuses on education, that our children are safe and they're protected from pornography, from grooming, and from all of this cultural confusion that has entered our schools. Thank you.
This is a hard one to end on after hearing everything. I guess I had a prepared statement, but I think I'm just gonna talk. So I was raised, I'm an only child. I was a first-generation college student. I was raised by a mother who was a Mormon and a father who was a Catholic, and I am a Christian. It's been very interesting coming from a background of people who deeply love each other and who deeply love their beliefs, and to be able to live together and move through life together in a loving way. I think that that was instilled in me. I had to live it every day. I think that my compassion, my ability to see others' points of view and to be able to bring voices to the table, we shouldn't agree on everything. If we agreed, this would be almost like a dictatorship. I think that that's what makes a public school beautiful, is the fact that we are serving the range of humans in our community. And we should be able to listen to and be there for and show up for the entire range of those children and those families, and none of those children should be left off. I heard earlier about the kids not showing up to school. I think that because of my education and my history, I think I understand what is happening behind the scenes with some of those things. We talk about, well, kids don't show up, there's no accountability, or things like that. It's not about accountability, it's about understanding that behavior happens for a reason. Behavior happens for a reason 100% of the time. And I think that we have to look at behavior from a trauma-informed lens that says that I understand that you are behaving in a certain way and that there are actions that are happening because of something that's happening in your life. Do I think that we should have accountability? Yes. I do not think that kids are fragile. I don't think that they're fragile. In fact, I think children and humans are resilient. But I think that they have to be given an opportunity to have relationships and to have an environment in which their resiliency can be built and can be molded, and that they can come and grow into thriving adults through understanding that there are differences in opinions and that we can have useful conversations. I have the education and experience, and I can bring that to the table in a loving and compassionate way to best meet the needs of our students and our community.
Thank you so much to all of you candidates. None of you had to respond to this invitation, but you all did, so thank you so much. I know it's not easy to come into an environment where you know that maybe some of your answers might not be popular, or they might be whatever it is you feel. It's just great that we have people who are voicing what they are saying, and this is what we do. We get out and we vote, right? This is the whole point of all this stuff, is to get out the votes. I don't know if you guys have seen the general sample ballot for the general election that's coming up. It's not going to hit everything, like it's going to hit all the things on that sample ballot, but there's a lot of stuff going on, not just this race. There are a lot of things going on in our region, a lot of cities, a lot of city council races and school board races. So when we talk about, there was a little bit of talk about, I get the mic right now, that's why I'm talking, so they can cut me off anytime. But when we talk about elections, we think about the big elections, presidential, Senate, all that stuff, right? But these are the ones that we really, really have a lot of say in, right? I've seen elections swung by, we've all have, by a few dozen votes, little amounts, all right? These are the ones that if you really think that your voice matters in democracy, this is when you got to vote. So please, if you haven't registered to vote, that general election is coming up real fast, and if you need to get on the ball and do that, and remind all your friends to do that as well.